Still Delish goes through the middle, goes the sub. This is a great goal by the captain! Superb goal!
And I have the victorious coach, Gordon Iggerson. Coach, an emphatic victory today. But tell me, do you think you can now challenge for league honours?
Yep, we can proudly say here at the SABC that we trained the Banyana Banyana caretaker coach. As you could see there, she was trained in media, doing the interviews before joining the national team in her caretaker coaching role right now. But before we get into that conversation, I know a lot of you are asking on Twitter and as well on Facebook where Ayanda Patosi is. Well, unfortunately, Cape Town City have gone on a bit of a team-building exercise, which came up a little bit last minute, and he's been unable to join us in our Cape Town studio tonight. But we'll keep working on trying to get him into the studio. But we stay with things Cape Town because one of the great players of Banyana Banyana hails from Cape Town. She is Desiree Ellis, 32 caps and 6 goals in that time, over 9 years with Banyana Banyana. What a good story for a player to move on to being a caretaker coach of the national team. She's here with us and we'll unpack what is going on with Banyana Banyana as well, Desiree, with the Women's Month coming up next month. It's a great time to start off giving the appreciation that we should to women's football.
But I think every day should be Women's Day.
It is already. What do you mean?
not just Women's Month, but definitely great appreciation, yes.
Yes, and we are planning to do so. Let's start with you, though. Where did it start for you, Des?
Well, it's maybe 6 years old at primary school, playing with the boys. I think that's the story of most girls. Then when I found out there was a girls' team, well, I was like many other people, girls, you know, because I've always played with boys. And then eventually I joined a girls' team. My late father, biggest supporter ever, only supporter, would take me wherever I went. That took over the club that I joined at that time, Athlone Celtic. All my sisters were forced to play because now it was a family-owned club, and eventually joined another club, which then became Cape Town Spurs. Later changed to Spurs, and you know, 30 years on with Spurs until I became the coach, but of Banyana Banyana. But
you're going fast through the story. You're going very fast through the story. And I don't want you to go through so quickly because I think a lot of it is going to be inspirational. You playing at a time in a country that isn't free. You're playing in a country that doesn't have even a thing like Banyana Banyana when you are growing up. So there wasn't even that thing to say, I want to be a national team footballer. Why were you playing?
I always dreamed of playing for the national team.
But which national team? Because back then
we were just hoping that we would get the opportunity. And we talk about Mandela Month. He was released from prison, and I was fortunate enough to go for trials at the very young age of 30. And I went for trials, made the national team.
30?
30.
Your first game?
First game.
You were 30 years old?
30 years old.
Debut?
Debut.
No, Des, don't lie. That
Hat-trick.
visuals of you scoring was an over 30-year-old.
Yes. Hat-trick. Hat-trick. We beat Swaziland 14-0. 3 players got a hat-trick. And
that, ladies and gentlemen, as much as we were talking the other day about Bafana Bafana and it being 25 years of age, Banyana Banyana first game ever was on the 30th of May, 1993. It was the beginning of Banyana Banyana, and it was against Swaziland. You gave them 14-0. First game, 14. No, Des, it's not fair, man. 14 on your debut.
We had some great players, eh? We had Fikile Satole, Kabuzita. Those were great players.
Kabuzita. I'll tell you a story. Kabuzita is maybe the best women's footballer I've ever seen with the ball at her feet.
She was amazing. I didn't even dare try to do those things.
I don't even want to say women's footballer. She's amongst the best footballers I've ever seen with the ball at her feet. That one could dribble people, and not know where the ball went.
The most skillful player that I've ever known. You
did have a great team back then, but even the name Banyana Banyana, like, was it already there in 93?
No, it wasn't. They called us Bafazi. and then Fikile and Cabo them said, no. We don't want that name.
Is that a true story?
Yes.
So original name was Bafazi.
That's correct, yes.
And then you're like, aye. It's not the one.
No, it's not the one.
So then how did it develop into Banyana Banyana?
I don't know, but it just became about that. We eventually got called Banyana Banyana.
And only after complaints, though.
Yeah, the girls complained, yes.
And then the name got changed, and the rest is history as we speak about it. But so now you get into this team, age 30, and you go on to play 32 times. A lot of people will say, 32 times, Des, that doesn't sound like too many times. But times were different back then.
Oh, yes, we didn't play that often. Especially the year that there was no competition, we wouldn't play at all. We'd go to an inter-provincial tournament, get selected, and then only when there is a competition like the AFCON, we would all come together, the squad would get selected and play 1 or 2 friendlies, and then come for the tournament itself.
So it was that thing of, oh, there's a tournament in 3 weeks. Okay, let's call everybody up, and then you get your cap, you play, then you go nothing for months and months and months, maybe even an entire year, and then come back, tournament coming up in 3 months. Okay, let's go into camp, play the tournament.
I think it was the same for most African countries, because that was the only tournament at the time, which was the African Women's Championships. It was the only tournament. And in between, there weren't really tournaments in Africa for women, except for Nigeria qualifying for the World Cup and then going on to play at the World Cup. But other than that, there weren't many tournaments. We had interprovincial tournaments, and those were some of the tournaments that we played in.
So how hard is it? And how hard was it? Because I know when I compare, and we'll talk about comparisons, and like now you're in training camps, you've got all the facilities, but how hard was it back then for Banyana Banyana and for a woman who wanted to play in the national team football?
Look, if you love the game like we did, and you were passionate in what you did, we just stayed focused in that way and just played the game. Just played the game, because that is what we wanted to do. There wasn't a lot of money in the game back then either. I remember we used to get the one T-shirt and train in the T-shirt and come back and train in the same T-shirt. Or if you got injured, somebody would come. But the passion that the players had, I think that was of utmost importance. And then we had Dennis Mumble always coming into camp and wishing us well. And that was refreshing for someone to come in and always supporting us back in the day.
But it sounds like it wasn't hard then.
It was tough, though, because we obviously wanted to play more. And when the first time the tournament was held in South Africa, we said to ourselves, this is where we're going to market women's football, because playing outside the country, and I mean, we lost to Nigeria so many times, playing in the country, we said, here we're going to market ourselves. And I remember Vosloorus was packed out to capacity, and we had the fans coming in, and I think that was the rise then again of women's football.
Okay, Desiree Ellis stays with us. We'll talk to her a little bit more after the break, because not only was she one of the founder members of Banyana Banyana, but currently she is the caretaker coach of Banyana Banyana. They're in camp right here in Johannesburg with all the state-of-the-art facilities. Look at the tracksuit. Look at tracksuit today. Everything that you could want in a national team. A far cry from when she started out with one T-shirt that you had to wear every day at training. We will talk about what the plans are, what the future is, why they're even training after this.